type of time, it's that type of time. Yeah, can we catch a vibe? Can we catch a vibe? Yeah, Yana type of time, Clara type of time. Yeah, Brooklyn type of shit. It's that type of time, it's that type of time. Yeah, can we catch a vibe? Can we catch a vibe? Yeah, Yana type of time, Clara type of time. Yeah, Brooklyn type of time, Brooklyn type of time.
Okay. So first, let's start out. Keishorne, why don't you introduce yourself first, and then Frank, you can introduce yourself, and then we can go from there.
Okay, good. My name is Keishorne Scott. I'm Heartbreak relationship coach. I help men and women heal from relationships that weren't worth saving. And what I do is just help people get back to their true self, help them love themselves, similar to Frank, help them find their self-love, their self-worth, and who they are, and their identity in being single.
Great. Okay. I like that, their identity and being single.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, because that's the thing that people are so used to, like, being in a relationship or they feel down on themselves when they're not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like people don't even give themselves a chance to heal from one thing
Mm-hmm.
before rushing into another thing. That's important. Okay, Frank, how about you? What's your whole spiel?
Well, I'm Frank C. Johnson. I'm an author, speaker, and consultant, and I also consider myself a love coach. And I just feel like we're in such a deficit when it comes to love and relationships. And it's a shame because I don't think there's anything that's greater than love. So my objective is to prepare people for being in a happy, functional, monogamous relationship. I kind of say that in a redundant way because I think that's what most of us want to be in, a happy, functional, monogamous relationship. There are a lot of people who are in relationships that aren't happy, functional, or monogamous. So I think that if that's what your objective is, there's certain things that we have to do and we have to change. That's why I entitled my book Revolutionizing How to Love, because I think that the way that we've been taught how to pursue and endure relationships has been wrong. Based off the stats, right? Just based off of the divorce rate, based off of how many people are in a unhappy relationship, you can see that something is not right. So if we want to have a change, we have to make a change, or else we're just going to have a constant.
Yeah.
Well said. Well put. Okay, so what are the common mistakes you see happening, Frank? You said we're doing it wrong. So explain that. What are we doing wrong? Because some people don't know. We don't know how to love. We haven't really been taught.
I think there's so many things. I mean, we do so many things wrong. And one of the things that we do wrong is we have a lot of gender-based assignments, right? Men are supposed to be this way, women are supposed to be that way. And I think that's wrong because you have some men who are more in tune with their feminine energy. And I don't mean that in a sexual way. I just mean that there's some, like me, I grew up with 5 sisters. I don't have any brothers, right? So I grew up in a house where there was a ton of estrogen. So even though I'm a very masculine dude, I can still relate to that feminine energy, right? So sometimes I would do something in a way that people may think, oh, that's a little feminine, right? But I think that, there are some women who are very mechanical, who can fix everything, plumbing, electric, so if that's what works in your household, you have to contort your relationship in a way that fits you, not really do things in gender-based. And another thing that we do wrong is that a lot of us expect people to accept us with our flaws. You know what I mean? Accept me for who I am, accept me, my good and my bad, versus saying, well, you know what, let me try to become the best version of myself before I enter a relationship. In that way, they don't have to endure the bad. Just like whoever you meet in the future and you want them to be a part of your life for the rest of your life, you want to meet the best version of that person, right? You don't want to meet that person, when they're at their lows or they're still a work in progress and may never achieve the level that you need in order for you to be in a happy relationship. So I think that we need to really work on ourselves and become 100% of an individual before you become 50% of a couple. I think that's imperative.
Okay. Keishorne, what about you? What's your view on that?
I mean, I agree with it. I agree with it. Also, Frank, you're the man. 5 girls. I just want to imagine how that was, emotionally, mentally too. I'm happy that you survived.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Well, I agree with it. A lot of people, they jump into, they want a relationship or jump into the dating stage with the expectations of what they want, right? And nobody really say what they want to give, right? That's why I always tell people you have to meet the requirements of your requirements. You can't require people to be trustworthy, honest, loving. You don't want them to cheat. You want them all the time. You want them to communicate, and you're not the type of person, you want. So a lot of people, they jump into a relationship saying, if you ask anyone, it's always what do you want in a relationship. It's not what you want to give. People always say, well, what I want this. I need somebody who's handsome. I need somebody who's tall. I need somebody who's this. They got to get their life together. He got to be making over $100,000. He got to be able to support me. But you're not even at the level of your requirements. So that's one of the misconceptions in relationships. When you don't get that, you get upset. And then you're like, you know what? You're not who I thought you would be. Well, you're not the person either. So they could say the same thing that you're saying. So I believe a lot of people, they have to become what they want, at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. We shared a laugh because, we had this discussion like a couple times, what do you need like in a relationship? What does the other person need to have already before they come into the relationship? And I'm like, I'll work with somebody like from the down low, like whatever we could build together. Ayana's like, yeah, we could build together, but, he has to have a little more like ambition and, certain things that he has in his character has to have. And I think, we could build that. I'm one of those people that we could build together because we could learn together. And it's, I think it is difficult though. I think it depends on the person, the type of person you are. If you want to build with somebody or if you really just want everything to be already there,
Sometimes too, it's based on what you've been through in the past.
Right.
So when we ask, hey, I want somebody with ambition, it kind of means that the last man I had, he had no
didn't
ambition.
have it. Exactly.
He didn't have no thing. If you say I want somebody with who could communicate a little bit better, it's because you didn't have somebody before in the past who can communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, what our requirements are is based on what we didn't get in our previous relationship. So we kind of reevaluate things and shift things around. And I think Frank, you're in the same direction with that, right? Like they got to shift around.
Absolutely, most definitely. And I think that what's extremely important is you have to be able to differentiate between what you want from your spouse versus what you need from your spouse, because that line can be very blurred sometimes. And what we're talking about now is just that, like sometimes you think that you got to have this in your mate, but you get into a relationship, you might say, like he said, you might think I need to have somebody who's tall. But you can meet somebody who is on the shorter end or shorter than you prefer, but they have all the other things that you need, and you realize the height really isn't as important as you thought that it was. So you have to become. That's why I talk about becoming 100% of an individual before you become 50% of a couple. You have to really know yourself and be able to differentiate between the things that you want, which are negotiable, versus the things that you need, which are non-negotiable. Because you can't. A need is something that you can't do without, right? Like water, food, and air. You can't sacrifice any one of those things and expect to sustain life. So there's certain things that you need from your partner that if they don't provide it, the relationship is also going to die. So you have to know what those things are prior to getting to a commitment.
That's understandable, but there's all this pressure to just find someone and marry. Like I'm 29, turning 30 this year. I have all this pressure everywhere I go. My mom is like, "When are you getting married? When are you gonna have a baby?" My grandmother, she's doing this thing now where it's like every time she sees me, she brings me something. She's like, "I brought you some trays for when you get married. I brought you some silverware for when you get married." This is like a real thing. She does this
cultural
all the time, huh?
To bring you a man.
Cultural thing.
Yeah, I get it, but like someone like me, what's your advice for someone who's single? Who has all this pressure to get married, but they know they don't want to settle for a certain type of guy. How do you navigate that now in 2021? I want to ask Keishorne this because we don't necessarily have time. Like my timeline is like, okay, 10, 15 years is my cutoff. Like I want to have kids, right? Ideally, I would like to be married before I have kids. I want more than one. Don't necessarily want to have them back to back. How much time do you think, on average, people need to heal from one situation and then before they're ready to jump into the next one?
There's no time for that. There's no time. you work on your own pace, and it depends on how much work you want to put in yourself. So let's talk about 3 steps right now. Let's talk about the healing stage first, because if you can't heal, I think Frank touched on it before. You will expect the other person to heal, or I think you said something before, Frank. I forgot what it was, but it was a line to pretty much taking care of yourself first before getting into another relationship, right? I think one of the things that people have to understand is that we heal and hurt differently, right? You heal at your own pace, right? It depends on you. So don't compare your healing season to someone else's, because right now you might be like, okay, why am I not healed yet? Why am I not healed yet? Are you doing the work in order to heal? Are you still following him on Instagram? Are you still checking up on him or her, whoever it is, right? Are you giving yourself the space to really accept the fact that you have to move on? Do you have any lingering thoughts? Do you really, are you still, in pain? Have you forgiven the person? Have you forgiven yourself? Truly and genuinely said, you know what, Ayan, I forgive you for what you put yourself through. You should have left a little sooner. You gave them too much chances. What they were doing were wrong. You weren't happy, but you still try to fix him. You still try to give him a chance, but you can't give people a chance if they don't see the change in themselves, right? So you have to take responsibility for your part. And then the other side to it, you have to forgive them, because some people don't know any better. We have to offer people grace sometimes in relationships to know that maybe they weren't raised with the ability to love you at the level of how you want to be loved. And it's hard to find a perfect relationship. I've been through the pain, right? I've been through the hurt. So I had to kind of evolve through it. So there's something else that you're holding on to that you're not willing to let free, to let go and give yourself the permission to heal. In regards to your mom now, you have to have that conversation with her. And listen, I know that at this place in my life, you just asked me 2 different questions, which means you're probably not even ready to fully give somebody, in a relationship. I might be wrong, but you might not fully be ready to give someone 100%. And in order to get to that point, you have to be able to give and receive love, right? Without any emotional baggages, without any mental baggages, without any physical baggage, or even spiritual baggages, right? And it's okay to accept the stuff from your mother, right? It's just how you respond to it. It's like, thank you. It's cool. You don't want to brush off your mom, but you have to understand that your relationship status isn't a race. Your goal to being married and having your family is not a race. It takes time, and you don't want to rush into anything that's going to, break you. Have you think about your ex? Have you think about the pain that you've been through? And now you're not even able to give somebody the opportunity to love you correctly, or even give yourself the opportunity to love correctly. Right. But my main thing is, it's not a race. Healing is not a race, but it's what you're doing in order to get to that next level for it.
Yeah. So let's talk about heartbreak in general, because we just kind of jumped into it. But that's a very interesting topic for you to be focused on.
Mm-hmm.
How do you personally deal with a heartbreak? I'm assuming you've been heartbroken before.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us how this came about?
Yeah.
How was this interesting to you, and your whole story, how you got over that?
Yeah.
Give us tips.
I mean, I went through a heartbreak back in 2010, with her for about 4 years. Things didn't work out. We separated. I was devastated, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe kind of process, right? So with that whole situation now, I had 2 choices, right? Keishorne, you're either going to be helpless or you're going to be hopeful. And it was a hard journey. It took me 2 to 3 years to get over that. But I believe it wouldn't have taken me 2 to 3 years if I had the right support system around me, if I had the tools that I had today, right? The kind of like a safety plan or a guide to help me go from brokenness to wholeness. There's a lot of things that I was doing in the beginning, still hitting them up, still following, still talking, still trying to get to the person. And the funny thing about heartbreak is that that the relationship is not meant for you, but you'll still try to make it work, even though you know that it's toxic and it won't work, is because we're still in love with the familiar aspect of that person. We don't want to start over. Starting over is scary. I got to meet your family. I got to get to know your last name, your date of birth, what you like and what you dislike. And that's a whole process in itself. So going through my whole process, I learned that, I got to be strong for me. I have to be strong. And it's the hardest thing in the world, right? Besides death, one of the hardest things to live and go through is a heartbreak, a death in a family. Those are the hardest things because you actually feel it in your heart, right? So going through my whole process, it taught me how to be stronger, how to find my individuality and being who I am, and how to be whole with my brokenness. Understand that I'm not damaged. I might have damaged, parts but as a whole person, I'm still whole. I'm not. I just gotta fix it. I just gotta relearn who I am. Tie these strings up again. And it was a process, but I realized that you have two choices when you're going through a heartbreak. It's either going to stay that way or you're going to heal. You can't have both, right? Healing and helplessness can't coexist in the same person, right? Because that's when you have trust issues when you get into a relationship. That's when you blame the other person for what your ex qualities were, and you don't know if that person has spent a lot of time healing, and you bring your damaged toxic self into a relationship. Now you're damaging everything that person spent so long to fix within themselves. And that's just selfish to the love that you're trying to build.
Okay. So how did you move from heartbroken to, because I know you're married, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got heartbroken in 2010 and you're married and you have a daughter. So how did you, it seems to me like you moved pretty quickly. Like once you were heartbroken, you just kind of like full speed ahead.
With what?
Because you said you were heartbroken around like 2010, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what year you got married, but it kind of
was about 5 years ago.
Okay, so like within a year or two after meeting your wife or dating your wife, you got married, right?
Yeah, probably a year. We got married really, really quick. So in 2013, I was over. 2014, I believe we met like in 2016. So we got married really quick. So I was off of dating for at least about 2-3 years, maybe more. Before that healing completely, I would say about 2013. So I had like a good 3 years without dating or going or doing anything before I met my wife, because we were about to meet 5 years. So we were kind of dating for like about a year, couple months to a year. And after that, she was in the same direction as me. I was in the same direction, and we didn't want to waste any time. And we knew what we had. I prayed a lot, and I knew that was my wife. Me and my wife, we knew each other before that.
Okay.
Because he was engaged when I was engaged. I knew the guy she was engaged with. He lived like around the corner from me, and I used to see them. We never used to talk. So one day she invited me to church, and when I went to church with her, I was like, "Hey, I thought you was talking to the guy who was behind us." She's like, "Oh no, we broke up," and I didn't know that because she didn't post anything on social media. But when we were engaged at the same time, around 2009, 2010, we were like, "Hey, congratulations!" Yeah, everything was good. That's why I always tell people, you never know the person you're meant to become is probably engaged right now. They probably in a whole marriage. And I'm not saying it to make sure that, marriage is not going to work. But from my experience, you never know who that person is. We look for somebody single when in reality, you could be, your wife is probably engaged right now and not happy, in a full-blown relationship. So we had to answer your question, we had a long gap in between that, from brokenness to that.
That's good. You give like, not me per se, but it's good for you to share this story, because I think a lot of people can find hope in that. Sometimes when you're heartbroken, you feel like you're never gonna get over it, and to show that you can get heartbroken and then the next person after that is like your husband or your wife. That's a beautiful thing to think about. You never know what's gonna be on the other side of that heartbreak. Like Cassie and Diddy, for example, they were together for like 10 years or something.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden they break up, and then you see like she's engaged and pregnant, and now she's pregnant with another child. And it's just like, wow, who would have thought like you could be with somebody for so long and then just be over it, and then just
that's a different story.
No.
Yeah, you got to ask the love coach for that. That's tough.
You are a love coach.
Huh?
I agree with them. I agree. It's funny because I actually had this conversation last night, and it's absolutely true. And, one thing that I say all the time is the more time you spend with Mr. Wrong, the less time you spend with Mr. Right. Mm-hmm. And what that means is you spend so much time with the wrong person, right? Whereas if you weren't involved with that person, you'll open yourself up to meet the next person, right? But that next person wouldn't have met you because you're there with the wrong person. Does that make sense?
Right.
So it's like if everybody were to adopt that ideology, we'll have a lot more single people, and you have a greater chance of meeting the right person for you. But guaranteed, like what he said, the right person for you is probably in an unhappy relationship right now. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
So it's more so about timing, right?
Yeah. What's funny is it's just really crazy because, like, I think that, again, if you just go by the stats and you look at how many people are in unhappy relationships, we have to be doing something wrong. right? We can't be doing something right. Like if you were to like gauge whether we are winning or failing at relationships, we are by far failing, right? Like if this was an actual test, man, we will all be in summer school. So I think that we need to understand that we have to do things that we're not accustomed to doing. We have to have a mindset and develop a mindset that we don't currently have. And we need to recalibrate the way that we see relationships. We just have to.
Yeah.
So, Keishorne, what's some advice you can give us, the woman who we represent, just young, Black, successful, working hard, single, but would like to find Mr. Right? What's your advice on?
I mean, my advice on that is simple but broad, right? Because you're not giving me too much. So in order for me to give you the best advice, right, I will have to know what's going on, internally in order to give you the best advice. Because I could say something and you could be like, oh, yeah, that's right, but it's general advice. So my advice is to find out, my best advice is to find out exactly what's holding you back, right, from being your best self, right? What's holding you back from loving unconditionally? What's holding you back from actually the thoughts in your mind of being married, right? Because you brought up your mom, right, which might be a trigger for you, right? Like what's holding you back from all of those things, and set up a plan on how you're going to conquer those things one at a time, right? Because general advice for everybody is pretty much, heal, make sure that you heal before you get into a relationship. Make sure you're ready to accept and receive love. Make sure that you're preparing yourself for the man or woman you're trying to meet. Make sure that you're in a position to give people all of you without any trauma, without any issues from the past, right? But my best general advice will keep preparing yourself and keep becoming a better person. Single or in a relationship, you're still evolving, right? So don't think that when you get into a relationship, that's it. I'm in a prize. You're still learning your partner. You're still learning yourself, and you're still adapting to the concept of a relationship. And love alone won't sustain a relationship. People always say, because I love you, right? Because I love you, forget about
love conquers all.
Yeah, right? Because also, people say, oh, yeah, love conquers all. That's just because we're in love. No, you still need to respect me. I still need you to communicate. I still need you to come home on time. I still need you
trust you.
Trust you. Stop hanging out with those single friends all the time and going to those strip clubs. Stop going drinking at these bars.
I had this conversation literally last night.
So yeah, but it's the same exact thing.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, you have to understand and let them know. And that's how you miss the red flags, is because you love them. And that's not even red flags, it's orange flags, it's black flags, it's a bunch of different colors.
Rainbow.
Yeah. And you miss these flags because you want to be in love and you feel like it's my time. And a lot of times we compromise who we are to be loved because we don't want to start over. If we feel like it's probably like millions of women who walked into 2021 saying, I'm going to get married this year. This year, I'm going to find him. This is my last year being single, right? What about, this is my last year worrying about a relationship. This is my last year not focusing on myself. You have to switch up your mindset, because when December comes, not even December, when October comes, and you start getting sad because November's coming, Thanksgiving, nobody's there, you're still single, your mom or your dad is still saying, "Dad, another year passed, and you still ain't bring nobody here." It's Christmas time, you buying gifts for the same people, you watching the Instagram stories of people in love, and you feeling sad, and then 2022 come. Well, you know what? This is the same year. People go through the same thing over and over.
Cycle that people don't break, right?
It's on yourself.
Can I piggyback on that for a minute?
Yeah.
One thing that I want to stress, and I don't want to be, Darnell Downer, and sound, pessimistic. But here's what the reality is. The reality is that everybody's not going to find their true love. Mm. Everybody's not going to get married. Everybody's not going to have kids. My boy passed away from cancer at 47 years old. On his deathbed, you know what he told me? Yo, the one regret I had? I never got married and I never had kids. It wasn't in his cards. The reality is that, let me rephrase it. My belief is that we're all primarily spiritual beings. We're all here to accomplish a mission, right? Whatever that mission is what the mission is. And sometimes it doesn't entail love. Sometimes it doesn't entail marriage. Sometimes it doesn't entail children, right? But we still have a mission to accomplish. Finding love, having children, getting married, and all that stuff, that's something that is like the icing on the cake. You know what I'm saying? It's something that we all aspire to, but that's not our primary mission as being a spiritual being. This body is just a host for our spirit to manifest itself in this physical realm, right? But we have a mission to accomplish spiritually. So with that being said, I think the way that you get over heartbreak is to prepare yourself prior to getting into a relationship with the understanding that I may have love, I may not have love, but you have to live your life as fully and as fruitfully as you possibly can as a single individual. Once you can accept, not just intellectualize it, right? But once you can accept that as being the truth, then it's easier for you to go ahead, like, I'm single. You think I want to be single? You think I want to wake up to my empty pillow? I don't, right? I would love to wake up next to the woman that I adore every morning, breath all tart and everything. You know what I'm saying? But that's not my reality right now, and I'm okay with it. You know, I'm alone, but I'm not lonely because I accept that, you know, there's something that I'm accomplishing or striving to accomplish. Not even like consciously just saying this is my mission, so I'm going to go do it. I'm just living my life as fruitfully and as honestly as I possibly can. And if I happen to find that special someone, icing on the cake. I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to accept it. But if I don't, I understand that there's a reason why I haven't.
Okay. You're at peace with yourself.
Yeah. I think that's one of the points too. That was a really good point about going into the relationship knowing that it may or may not work. And a lot of people go into the relationship thinking that, all right, it's all on the back, it's going to work. I'm going to make it work. And you might force it to work and it might not. And
even after you get married.
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm going to get married. I'm going to stay married.
Forever.
That's a whole different level.
I hate that. Like,
I'm getting married one time.
Yeah, and the people that say that are the ones that force it usually. They're usually the ones that's like pressuring the man to propose. I'm just watching a show and the girl proposed to the guy and I'm just like, don't do it.
Don't do it. Rewind that.
Any woman should propose to a man ever. But yeah, Keishorne, I know you have to go.
Yep. Thank you so much. Yep.
Okay. I should have never said anything. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes, you're more than welcome. Frank, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to get your information and I'm going to follow you on IG.
Absolutely, man. Just send me a message too so I can follow back.
I got you.
All right. Thanks, man. All right. Thank you.
Be good, man.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Have a good day. Oh, all right, Frank. So that was a little more like geared towards Keishorne just because he had a time limit. But yeah.
Got you.
So do you want to talk about the needs versus the wants? Because I know that's like your biggest thing. You did an exercise with me. I don't know if you remember where you had me write my 10. No, you said write all of my wants on a piece of paper. And you told me to pick 10 out that are needs. And
well, yeah, break down all of the things that you need from your spouse and all the things that you want from your spouse. And one thing you'll find is that like people, here's what I'm telling you, we gotta just change, man. Like so many things, we've been hoodwinked when it comes to relationships, bamboozled, right? Because you'll hear stuff like, you're never going to find the perfect person. Relationships are hard. It's all false. It's all bullshit, right? Because you can find the perfect person for you. It doesn't mean that person doesn't have any flaws. It just means that those flaws are conducive for you. You know, you can deal with those flaws. You feel what I'm saying? So that exercise that I had you do was to prove the point that if you have somebody who has 10, if you have 10 needs, right, and you find somebody who has 9 of those needs, that person is not for you. If you extract one of those needs, right, and put them in a column that they don't have, right, whether it's fidelity, whether it's communication skills, whether it's being family oriented, whatever it is that you need as an individual from your spouse, if they don't have it, that one thing, you're going to see that the relationship is not going to work. It's just like water, food, and air. I can't say, okay, well, just give me some water and some food and hold the air. and I'll be good. I'm going to die. Or I can't say, give me air and food and hold the water. At some point, I'm going to die. So if that person is missing one thing out of the things that you know that you need, at some point, your relationship is 100% guaranteed to die. Facts.
It wasn't until I actually did the exercise that I realized that. Because there's a lot of things, like the person, you might be someone who you feel like is almost perfect, right? And you kind of just settle for that.
Yeah, settle. If you settle for less than what you need, what you going to get? Less than what you need.
Yeah, but it's like 9 things. That seems like a lot of things, you know?
But it depends on you. It depends on how many things you need, right? You may only need 5 things and you're good. You know what I mean? You might just need a connection, great communication, stability, and, you know, sexual chemistry. And if you have those things, then you might be good. You know, somebody else might need, you know, he got to be rich, you know, he has to be of a certain race, or, you know, like those might be their needs, which adds to the list. You know, not that you might be racist, but you just might want to only date black men. But you might find a white dude or Latino or an Asian who, you know, you have a connection with, but because he's not black, that might be a real issue for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think people have too many needs. You know, I think sometimes, like, if you think about it, your needs are just selfish. It's more about what you don't have, and you're trying to, like, balance something out, and you're trying to do it with somebody else. So it's not even about the person. It's not about what they can give you. It's about what you can give yourself. And you're looking towards somebody else to give it to you. And I think when you really look at a list, you have to think about, okay, can I do this for myself? Do I actually need someone to do this or give me this need? You know, and I think that's where a lot of people, like, you know, lose out on good people, because we are all learning as humans. We're all broken in a sense too. So we come into relationships broken, and we expect the other person to be at, like, their all-time prime. And it's like, that's not fair. They might not have they might not have 10 needs, but they have 9. Maybe together you could get to that 10th need, you know?
I'm going to tell you, that's a recipe for disaster.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, let's
because you have zero control over anybody's else effort. You have zero control. Let's say, and this is a common mistake that women make, right? Everybody makes, but more so you'll find it in women. Women will look at a man and be like, yo, he's got so much potential. If only he would X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. Guess what he hardly ever does? He ever gets to X, Y, or Z. He's stuck on elemental P somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So
I guess I have a different perspective, because I've been in a relationship for 10 years, you know, and I'm only 26. And within that, you know, I wouldn't tell people this is a formula that you should do. I wouldn't recommend it, because my boyfriend and I are 2 different types of individuals. You know, we are individuals first and foremost. And I think that's helped us become a good couple, a great couple, a long-lasting couple. And with that is, like, we understand, you know, when we were 16, we don't know shit. As we get older, we're like, oh shit, we really didn't know shit. And then we keep learning that we didn't know shit, and understanding that we're building wisdom individually that we could bring to this partnership. And within that, you know, like, I didn't know that I needed something at 16 that I know I need at 26. But because we've had this type of relationship where we're learning each other's needs, we could have that conversation like, yo, I need this. If you're not moving like this, man, I don't know. And it's like, oh shit, man, I need this too. Wait, if you need this, I need this. And within that, we're learning like, oh, okay, we have to compromise, or we have to, like, not compromise in a bad way, but we have to learn to be not only individuals, but a partner. And that also makes us better humans. You know, I think within that partnership, I've learned to understand people outside of my relationship, empathy. I've learned to be more sensitive, because I was raised in a Haitian household. Ain't no sensitivity. You get what I'm saying? There's no sensitivity in my household. But because of this man, I've learned to be like, yo, I can't be hard on people. I can't not pay attention to people's feelings. So I think I hear what you're saying. If you don't have it all, then, you know, don't go there. But I think there's also I think you could go there too, because you don't have it all. So why should they have it all? You know, and I think that's what leaves people lonely at the end of the day. I don't think it's a case where looking for the right person. Because like you said, you might be with the wrong person and they put you where you need to be, so why not?
It really depends on you, right? Because it depends on whether you're willing to go through all of the trials and tribulations and pains that you're going to go through when you're in a relationship with someone who's not providing your needs. There are people who's willing to do it,
right?
But then there are other people who are only trying to be in a happy, functional, not dysfunctional, a happy, functional, monogamous relationship.
Right.
If that's your objective, you're not going to find it in somebody who's not providing your needs.
Right.
No matter how bad we want it, or no matter how bad we want to twist and contort it into fit, it's not going to fit. It's just the way it is. So, like, give me two things that you need from your spouse.
Me, I just need support, and
what kind of support?
Like, I don't even know how to describe because I already have it. You got I'm a creative. So, for example, right now he's controlling the mic. He's put the light up. I don't even have to say these things.
They're like a team. They're truly a team.
So, and it's vice versa. And I want to support you because I'm not the type of person that just sits around. Like, I have to help you with something. So if you're doing something, I have to help you with it. So you have to be comfortable with that. So
what's another need?
Another need I would say is I would say just to listen to me and like just to have a good conversation where it's stimulating. Like if we don't have ability to have stimulating conversation, I won't be able to be in any type of relationship with you. Not even a relationship, but even a friendship. You get what I'm saying? Like a conversation, I'm dead ass. Like
no, I'm the same way. That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah, like the conversation has to be stimulating. We have to be coming up with different ways of thinking. Like we got to be watching the news and coming with some type of like, yo, what's going on? You know that Biden is on some shit. Like, don't like we have to be thinking outside the box. So those are my two needs. And I think those are the two needs that I've always needed throughout life because I didn't have that within my house. You get what I'm saying? That support, that the somebody listening. So everything else that comes with it, it's like, all right, whatever. Like I could go through those things. As long as we have these two things, I'm good.
So those other things are what you call wants, right? You just want him to have those other things. It's great if he has them, but if he doesn't, it's not a deal breaker. No. But these two things, if he doesn't have it, then it's a deal breaker.
Definitely.
So now, what if you're talking about something political and he's like, yo, you say something about Kamala, and he's like, who the hell is Kamala?
And that happens all the time.
Or if you say to him, I'm going to be doing a podcast, and I need for you to do the lighting, or I need for you to do the and he's like, nah, my man's and we got a game, like a scrimmage game that we're going to play. Right? If that's the type of person that he was, would you be able to be with him?
No, and not even let me not say no, because that's not the type of person he is from me.
No, but I'm saying if that was the person he is.
Definitely, but he was never that person.
But if he was that person, would you be able to be with him?
That person.
But I get it. But like Samson has never been that type of person. It's like not in his DNA. Plus, all our friends are the same, right? So that wouldn't even be a thing. Also, if he was gonna go hang out with his friends, I don't have a problem with that. I don't. If the lighting, I could fix the lighting. I could do all of this stuff. He chooses to do it.
So then that's what I mean about like being very concrete in your needs versus your wants. Right? It's very, 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 very solid. Because I give you an example. A lot of people will be like, I need somebody who is faithful. I can only be with a man if he's faithful. And then he cheats, and then what do? They stay. So you don't need a man to be faithful. You want a man to be faithful. Right? When that person doesn't provide you with your needs, they're called deal breakers. This is a deal breaker for me. But how many times does he have to break the deal in order for it to be a deal breaker? That's the question. So what I'm saying to you is that there's certain things that you need from your spouse, right? In order to sustain happiness, in order for you to be functional, meaning y'all ain't fighting every 5 minutes. You know what I mean? In order for you to be monogamous, meaning I'm going to stay with you because you provide me all my needs. Most people cheat. You know why? Not because they're horny. It's just because they're not. Then that person is providing them with something that they're not getting from the person that they're with. It could just be compliments. It could just be attention. It could be stimulating conversation. You know what I mean? It could be something physical also. So there's a reason why people go out and become cheaters. why they're not monogamous. It's not because they're so insatiable that they have to get it from everybody. You know, most people go outside because they're not getting something at home, and it's not usually not sexual. So that's why it's very, very important to be able to define within yourself what exactly is that I need from my spouse. What do I need? Meaning I can't do without it. Not that I feel like he has the capability of being that person that I want him to be, because he may not want to be that person. You may need somebody who's communicative, and that may not be his makeup. That may not be his nature. He's more quiet and reserved and laid back and, wants you to, feel his thoughts. There are people like that. So if you find somebody who has everything else, but he's got that one issue, and that's something that you need that constant mental stimulation, and he doesn't provide it, it's not going to work. At some point, you're going to get frustrated. Absolutely. But all of those needs are variables. They're all interchangeable. Whether it's sex, great sex, if you're a sexual person and he's not, that's going to be a problem at some point. If you need to be told you're beautiful and you did a great job and all of these things, and he's not that person, you're going to be frustrated at some point. If you need to be, if you're adventurous and you want to travel and you want to do this and you want to do that, and he's really big into PlayStations, that's going to be problematic for you at some point, I'm telling you. And that we have to understand that we can't keep trying to fit these square pegs into these round holes and expect the relationship to work. The analogy that I use is that you can get a round hole, and you could get a square peg and you can bang it in there. At some point it's going to fit, right? It's going to contort to the shape of that hole, but you're going to have a whole bunch of dents and a whole bunch of splinters and a whole bunch of breakage trying to fit it in. And that's reflective of your relationship. Those dents and those splinters represent the cheating, the arguments, the fights, and the unhappiness, because you're trying to fit something that does not fit. And that's what we tend to do collectively.
Do you think over time, though, people's needs change?
Yes.
So how does the relationship remain intact?
See, that's the thing. That's another thing we got to change. Relationship, we've been told that once you get married, it's forever. That's bullshit. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's not always going to be forever. Why? Because people, sometimes you start out on this road, and then one person wants to go take this highway, and you want to keep going straight. Right? You don't always grow in the same direction. Sometimes you go in different directions. And if I'm over here and you're over here, guess where our relationship is going? You know what I'm saying? And I may need to be over here, and you may need to go here. Those are two different needs. So sometimes we have to split. So relationships are not always going to be forever. We hope that they're going to be forever. We pray that we're going to grow in the same direction, but that's not always reality. And we have to face reality. True or false?
So it seems.
No, I don't agree, but Diana,
go ahead. No, he's right.
So,
I agree with everything you said. I think I'm learning. I'm single, but I'm like talking to my ex, and I'm just realizing like someone doesn't have to be everything for me. I was stuck on this thing like he doesn't. We don't have the same goals as far as like career wise. And it was really bothering me. And that was like the main thing that I felt was lacking in our relationship. I'm like, I want to work and do things, and you want to stay home and sleep, or you want to play video games or whatever. But I'm learning like we don't have to be exactly the same. All I need from you is to support me, like what she said, but I also do need you to show some interest in what I'm doing, which she does as well. And just be comfortable with the fact that like I might not be here as often. And maybe that's the time you can take to play your games or to lounge or, but when I'm here, like, let's focus on us. So I need like a balance between those for me to be happy. But I'm not like, as I was saying before, I'm learning someone doesn't have to be everything to me. Like, I don't need them to be exactly like me, but I do need them to respect what I'm doing and support me. Mm-hmm. But at the same token, you have to get clear on what you need from people, because if you're not, it's gonna fall by the wayside eventually. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's gonna keep popping up. So you either have to change what you like, if this is the one for you and you're dead set on being with this person, you kind of have to like compromise what you want and need.
Nope. You can't.
You can't? You
I
don't think so?
think you even have to, though.
You can't. Yeah, you do.
I don't think you have to. I think if the person wants, it's all about what the other wants to do. You get what I'm saying? Like, if somebody needs something from you, if you want to give it to that person, you're going to give it to them. You know, like, if it's Christmas, you're going to buy them a gift. They want the bag, they want the purse, you're going to get them the gift. They, like, you know, so it's all about what you want to give into your relationship.
Right,
So
but that's when they're providing your needs. So, like she said, let's use the example that she used. If, as long as he's providing her with what she needs and he's supportive, then she's cool. But when she comes home, he's still playing that video game, and she needs him to talk to her.
Right.
It's going to be problematic. So now she has a choice. Either she's going to stay in that relationship, and you are guaranteed to be unhappy at some point. 100%. It's not my opinion. It's just facts.
Right.
Like, you're guaranteed, because he's not providing a need. Or either you stay or you leave. Those are your choices, because you can't make him be supportive. And if he decides to be supportive, then he's providing your need. But if he desires not to be supportive, then he's not providing your need. Therefore, you're not going to get water, your food, or your air. It's just the way it is.
I don't think you can make somebody supportive, but I think you could break it down and make somebody understand why you need something. And I think we don't have the ability to have the same, like, emotional vocabulary. And sometimes just even introducing certain things to people, watching certain things with people, we, like, turn on an episode of Ayanla real quick, or something, like, you know, just to get the mind stimulated, get them thinking in a different way that they're used to. You can still have the ability to change them in that way, not to change them for you changing them, but you could have an impact on the way they're thinking. That would be nobody like you or me or Ayana talking about certain things, depending on where we come from. You know,
I'm going to show you something real quick.
Mm-hmm.
We're just about at 60% of couples who get married end up in divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 100%, 60% get divorced, right?
Right.
So that means that you still have a remaining balance of 40% of couples who are still married.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? More than half of those people, more than 20% of those couples are unhappy in their union. They're just anchored in their union, meaning they're only together because they have kids together, because they have a mortgage together, because it's cheaper to keep her, because they've been together for 15, 20 years and they're not trying to start all over again.
Right.
You understand? So that's 60 plus 20 to 25%. That means that there's 80 to 85% of couples who have gotten married who have failed.
Right.
You know why they failed? Because we have the same mentality that does not work. And what I'm trying to explain to you is that it's like the example that I use. You can't get any clearer than that to me. It's like, you need water, you need food, and you need air. You cannot compromise or sacrifice any one of those things, because it is a need. Right. You cannot live without it. There's certain things that your relationship is going to need in order for it to be successful. If you're talking about happiness and longevity, it's going to need it, right? You can only determine what it is that you need, but it also has to match his needs. If it doesn't, you're 100% not going to be happy. 100%. At some point, the happiness and the functionality and the monogamy of relationship is going to die. There's nothing you can do about it. But what we do is, I'm going to tell you where, women especially, I'm telling y'all what it is, man. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm 51 years old. I've been doing this a long time. We want who we want to be in our relationship. I choose that person. I just want to be with that person. I've invested so much time, so much energy, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We sometimes choose, I just want that to be my person. The reality is, if it's not working, it's not working. If it's not working, you know what it is? It's broken. If you have a car and every morning you get in, you turn that key, and you got to go to work, and it ain't working, guess what? Your ass is not going to be at work. Your car does not work.
These analogies,
it does not work.
I hear you.
But you know what this is? That's you trying to make it work. That's you trying to fit that square peg into the round hole. It's trying to work. But your relationship is, you're arguing, you're not happy, it's dysfunctional, your relationship is not working, but you're trying because you want this person to be your person, when in reality, it's not. You're hoping that this person changes. Why can't you just see my perspective and see where I'm coming from? Why can't you? That's you putting onto him what you want him to be and who you want him to be. That may not be who he wants to be. You feel what I'm saying? And vice versa. I'm not just saying, I don't mean you. I'm just mean people in general. This is what we tend to do. I want you to be this type of person.
Right.
You feel me?
See, I tend not to do that. I never say I want you to be this type of person. I always say, right now in my life, this is where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where you at, but this is where I'm at. And for me, it's not really fitting right now. So I don't know if, like, you know, it's a case where I'm evolving, you're not, or this is who you are, let me know. So this is the type of conversations I have. I never say, yo, I need you to be this person. I need you to, because that's not my, that's
it's an inadvertent way of saying it. Like, you're not saying it directly, but inadvertently, you're saying, in order for us to work, you have to, this is where I am.
I'm not even saying for us to work. I'm explaining where I'm at in my life. Because when we're in a relationship, people forget that you are an individual, right?
Yep.
So with that, you know, you having your own individual experiences, your own individual, like, you know, mental, whatever. So at this point, I'm like explaining this is where I'm at individually. So if you're sensing or feeling something from me, this is where I'm at. I'm not telling you to change. If this is where we've come to and this is our end, this is our end. It makes sense. You get what I'm saying? Like, we got each other to the point where we got each other. But I don't think it's fair for me to keep where I've changed as an individual and not let the person have a chance to be like, okay, you know, okay, maybe I could do something to, like, be along those lines, or maybe I could dial back because I'm going to give this person the space to go through what they're going through. And I think
right. So let's just be clear. When I say, like, when they don't have it, I don't mean like you have one conversation or two conversation, their communication is not on point, and then you break it off. What I'm saying is you give it a certain amount of time before, you know, you see if they're making an effort to make that change. Because even with the effort, I'm saying, like, if you see that somebody's making a valiant effort to be more communicative, right? Nah, you stay, because people can change, people can evolve. But what I'm saying is if people are steadfast in the way that they are for a period of time, you have to make that decision whether or not you're going to endure it or whether or not you're going to leave. So I'm saying, yes, absolutely, give them a change. You express what you need, because they may not know that's what you need, right? You express your needs and you sit back and you say, you determine whether or not they're making a valiant effort to be able to provide that need. If not,
well, I agree with you. Because I see a lot of, even in our parents' relationship, older people, like, you know, they're not happy. Like, they like, it'd be so sad. I'd be looking at them like, what are you doing? But they have to, it's like that responsibility, you know, and like, being in a relationship for 10 years, people might think I think it's a responsibility that we have to stay in this relationship. No, you know, there is no responsibility, you know, but we know our friendship was first. And that's something that has remained throughout the relationship, throughout the ups and downs. It didn't matter. In terms of the relationship aspect of it, the friendship always stays intact. So the responsibility because of time to us doesn't really matter. It's more the responsibility to grow as individuals and, you know, put ourselves in the position that we saw ourselves 10 years ago. You get what I'm saying? So it's just interesting to me, the perspective of, like, the needs and, like, wants and things like that. Because sometimes I just feel like a lot of people focus too much on that. And I'm like, you're not even focused on yourself. You don't even understand. You want this man to be rich, but you broke. How is that a thing? That makes no sense to me. Like,
it depends. I'm gonna tell you why it depends, right? My workout partner, he is like an Adonis, his body, right? He's like, dude could just literally be on stage. Why he like every fat mumpy woman in the place? You understand what I'm saying?
It's like,
so he's a certain way, but that's not what he wants. Right. So I can want a woman who's a multimillionaire, but she may not need a man that's a multimillionaire. We can still fit. You feel what I'm saying? Like, the girls that he loves, that he's physically attracted. I'm telling you, like, I like a certain type of woman. He doesn't even look at the type of woman that I like. He's like, a boy that. That's what he would say, a boy that. She ain't got.
You know, maybe it's because of he feels like women that look a certain way are more high maintenance.
That's what I was gonna say. Like this.
No, but it doesn't matter. The point is that that's what he likes. But so like you would look at him and be like, or assume that he would need a woman who's also in the gym and someone who also is into nutrition and so also into that. You would think that's what he needs because that's what he is, right? But somebody, so let's say that the girls that he's like his girlfriend. Let's say someone says to her, "Well, what type of guy you like?" She's like, "Oh, I love me a nice chiseled man." And you'd be like, "But look at you. You nowhere near chiseled."
Right.
You can't really compare it like that because what her needs are, he's providing. What her needs are, he's providing, and what his needs are, she's providing. Even though they're very, very different. So that can go with finances. That can go with certain things it can't, right? Because it's like communication. Because if I'm big on communication and you don't provide communication, then there's going to be a mismatch, right? But it could be like going to the gym. If I'm in the gym and you're not in the gym, that could still work. But growing together, is what's going to, again, my focus is on being happy, functional, and monogamous. That's my focus. Many people are in relationships and they're not either one of those three. I'm talking about people who want to be happy, functional, and monogamous. When I have a great day, you know who I want to go home and run to and talk to about it? My woman. If I know I'm about to embark on something exciting or do something adventurous, you know who I want to be by my side? My woman. Right? I don't want to come home, or I don't want to be on my way home and be like, "Oh, damn, she's home."
Yeah, that's horrible.
That's how a lot of people are, though. Like,
you know how many people do overtime because they don't want to go home?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So many people I know are like that.
Yeah.
Like, not people my age, but like, older people.
Now, people my age too. I've heard horror stories. It's just
people.
If you feel that way, you should not be with that person.
But I'm gonna tell you why they are because of the brainwash that we've been told. Relationships are hard. So when you get in a relationship,
you have to fight
and it's hard. What do? You stay in it because this is how relationships are. They're hard.
No, and I think that's a big misconception. Like. I could tell you in 10 years we barely argue. We argue. I'm not gonna say we perfect, but we don't argue. And if we argue, it's like by the end of it, it's like, damn, what are you even talking about? What was that about? Because it's like it's not worth it.
Right.
People, it's just those kinds of things. Like I see within my friends' relationships. I'm like, yo, come on. He's not listening to you. Why are you forcing him to listen to you? You're making this man sit in a room, listen to you over and over and over, and it's not changing. But for certain people, it's like, this is how I'm trying. I'm fighting for my relationship. You shouldn't have to fight for a relationship.
There's a difference between being in an unhappy moment and being in an unhappy state.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he can piss you off in the moment, but you're still happy with him. But there's a difference than being, I ain't been happy in 6 months to a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when you're in an unhappy state of being.
Definitely.
There's a big difference.
Definitely.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. Keishorne too, because that's my whole thing. And I hate when people say, like, why can't we work on ourselves in a relationship? For me, it's like,
it depends. I don't think you should do that. I would not recommend it.
I think you gotta take a moment to yourself sometimes and really figure out what you need. And then, if you really feel like that person, like you need that person, a part of you have a void when they're not around, then you like, okay, let's give it another shot, or let's see what happens. Let's work on it together.
Right. That's like saying, I'm an alcoholic and I'm gonna work on my alcoholism, but let's go get a drink and figure it out.
Yeah, I get it.
Listen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be in the midst of you can't be entrenched still in the midst of what you're trying to get over. So if you're trying to if you're trying to stop being an alcoholic, you can't be drinking. You can't be in an environment where that is. So if you're working on yourself, you have to be with yourself. You can't be with somebody else, trying to work on yourself. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I agree totally. But
we need to have that time anyway. Personally, I feel like there's some cases where, I'm not saying every case, because I do believe there's some people who are just connected in a certain way. But generally speaking, I think that 23, 24, 25, 26, those are the years to where you really become one with yourself and you really get to learn yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think by the time you're in your late 20s to early 30s is when you can start thinking about, being with one individual for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know how long that shit is? Like if you 30 and you live to be 80, that's 50 years with one person.
Yeah.
That's a long time. You have some years to where you can take to yourself, learn yourself, figure it out what it is that you want, figure out what it is that you need, where you want to go in life, how you want to get there. And I think that especially for women, I think that women really need to develop a sense of individuality and not go into being a dependent on somebody else. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion. Culturally, it's different. Society says things differently, but I think women need to be self-established. That way, they can choose a man who doesn't want to control them by being being over them with financial stability and yada yada yada. You know what I mean?
I think it's also
she has her own.
How you raised. I think that definitely plays a factor into like individuality. Because for me personally, like I know, like my mom, I seen her work through it, get married, and still maintain her like be the boss. So I was like, whoever I'm being with, I'm not gonna necessarily want to be the boss, but we both bosses, And that's how she is with my stepfather. Like he cooks, she cleans. So it's like a good balance of like the way the house works. And me, I always like knew like whoever I'm gonna be with, we have to have that kind of balance, So. Very important.
That's what I was talking about gender roles when we first started out.
Yeah.
It's like, the woman's supposed to cook and clean. Who said that?
Yeah. Like I don't wash dishes. Like I'll tell you that. I don't wash.
True. Every time I come here, I see him washing dishes.
I don't wash dishes. I hate washing dishes. No,
I hate washing dishes too.
But I don't wash dishes. I'm like, look, I'm cooking. I'm tired. Like after all that, man, that's
100%. 100%. Like I say all the time, like what makes you think a woman wants to come home and cook every single night? I'm Caribbean, right? So Caribbean men, especially old school dudes, they expect a hot meal every night.
Yeah.
And every night. And if it's not, it's like, yo, you won't give me a sandwich?
Yeah.
For real?
Nah.
How about I cook? How about you figure it out? Like I'm usually the cook in any relationship that I've been in. I'm the cook, right? But what if I don't feel like cooking? You can cook, or we can eat out.
Or we order something. There's times I don't feel like cooking. You be like, so we get Uber. I'm like, yup. And then that's how it goes. There's
100%.
It's just sometimes you just gotta work with each other. I think people gotta work with each other. But I hear what you're saying though, because water, food, things like that, those are essential. And
I have a friend of mine who's American. Her boyfriend is Guyanese. Homie literally like doesn't even want to pick up his plate. He feels that he goes out here. I mean, they both work, right? They both work.
Yeah.
But she's supposed to cook, and he's accustomed to just getting up, and his mother will pick up the plate and da 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 da. So he's expecting his wife to do the same thing. Yeah. It's problematic in their relationship. It's a problem to where she's like, I don't know, this is gonna work.
Yeah, I agree. That's not good. That's not good. That's not good at all. There has to be a balance.
And a woman who's going to be submissive and someone who's going to baby
and cater to him
like a woman.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's not that hard to find that.
Oh no.
A lot of West Indian women are like my mom would be like, oh, make him a plate.
I hear when I go to my mom's house with
like you don't want to. But I like doing things like that. But I like doing things. I think you should want to. And I'm like, I'm not you.
Right.
Don't want to have the types of relationships you've had. Because
there's levels.
I don't know how they lasted that long. If he doesn't even want to pick up his plate, that means she's doing it.
She's picking it up.
She ain't doing it.
She ain't doing it.
I'm happy, functional, monogamous. I don't know if they're happy.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying the happiness right now. She's not really happy. But what is she doing?
Staying.
Trying to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get it. I agree. You can't do that. It doesn't work. I've seen so many people fail, and I'm like,
the key is to love yourself.
Love yourself
fully to the point where you don't it doesn't matter how much I love you. Like I love myself more,
and I could be okay,
and I'll be alright.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard, but
I'll be
I'll
okay.
get over it eventually.
That's all I'm saying.
So much other things in their life they gotta go through. You being heartbroken, you'll be alright.
And remember, the more time you
You've been heartbroken. Hard.
Of course I've been heartbroken.
You're right.
Of course I've been heartbroken.
and remember, the more time you spend with Mr. Wrong, the less time you spend with Mr. Right.
I agree.
That's a good motto.
I think that should be a tag. Like,
yeah. But I don't think I'm gonna have any more space. I wanted to just cut off.
Okay. Wrap it up.
Yes.
Okay.
So, any last words of advice? Anything you want to say? Plug?
Well, I just want to say good luck to y'all and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I think that it's important to, talk about relationships and get different perspectives and, try to figure out what it is that we're doing wrong so we can start doing it right. You know what I mean? But if you do want to get a copy of my book, you can check me out on Amazon or just go to my page on IG at Frank C. Johnson. And the link is in my bio.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Conversation.
Yes.
Stimulating conversation.
For real.
Maybe back in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when this episode is out, I'll send it to you and give you all the information.
Cool. I'm ready.
Yes, but it's gonna be in February most likely.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. But thank you
all
so
right.
much. Thank you
We'll
again.
be in touch.
Take care. I will. Bye.
All right. Bye.